All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're taking a brutally honest look at the business practices of the precious metals dealer GovMint.com, which is operated by Asset Marketing Services. We're going to be looking squarely at the facts here, drawing directly from Public Better Business Bureau records, government definitions, and the specific filings of a major class action lawsuit. There is a whole lot to unpack regarding how these assets are marketed and sold, so let's get right into it.
To make sense of all this, here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover what bullion coins actually are. Second, we'll look at GovMint's BBB record. Third, we'll dive into the class action lawsuit. And finally, we'll break down collectible versus bullion value.
Starting off with Section 1. What are bullion coins? Establishing the baseline of precious metal investments.
Before we look at any complaints or legal drama, we absolutely have to establish a baseline of what these products are supposed to be. You hear the phrase gold investment thrown around all the time, right? Well, words matter, especially in finance. According to the US government, genuine bullion coins are valued strictly on their actual metal content. The key takeaway here is that their price fluctuates daily with world markets. Think of the American gold eagle or the Canadian maple leaf. When you buy bullion, you're just buying the raw value of the metal. If global gold prices go up, your coin goes up. If they drop, your coin drops. It's a direct, transparent, one-to-one correlation. Keep this definition in your back pocket because it's going to be incredibly important when we look at what consumers actually bought.
Moving on to Section 2, GovMint's BBB track record, contrasting ratings with consumer realities.
So this is where things get really interesting. Notice the stark contrast here. On paper, GovMint boasts an A+ BBB rating. But when you look at the 9 recent complaints, the actual substance of those disputes is pretty heavy. Now, 9 complaints over 3 years might seem like a drop in the bucket for a large volume dealer, but listen to what they're actually about. For instance, there are disputes over canceled orders. One consumer said they bought gold bars at an advertised price of around $1,150. 9 days later, the order gets canceled. The company claimed it was just a website pricing error and offered the exact same items back for $1,500, but the customer alleged the company canceled it simply because the global price of gold spiked and they didn't want to honor the lower locked-in price. We also see complaints about delivery issues, where items advertised as in stock suddenly turned out to be backordered and severely delayed after checkout.
And then there's this one. A resolved complaint detailed a family's absolute nightmare trying to stop physical catalogs from being aggressively mailed to their deceased father. Even after repeated attempts by the family to cancel the mailings, the company actually responded by demanding a copy of the man's death certificate before they would stop. As the complainant pointedly stated, this is a horrendous demand from a mail-order sales company. They should just stop their aggressive marketing to a dead man. The company did eventually apologize and fix the account, but man, these public records really give us a window into their customer service friction points.
Which brings us to Section 3, the class action lawsuit. Legal allegations against Asset Marketing Services. We're stepping out of BBB territory now and in a much more serious legal waters.
To fully grasp this 2021 lawsuit, we actually need to rewind the clock a bit. The suit points out that back in 2016, GovMint's operator, Asset Marketing Services, was hit with a $30,000 civil penalty, plus investigative costs, by the Minnesota Department of Commerce. This was directly tied to their sales practices regarding bullion coins, and they were officially ordered to revise their quality assurance programs. The plaintiffs in the 2021 lawsuit argue that this previous slap on the wrist clearly didn't change how the company operates.
And that brings us to the core of the 2021 complaint. The lawsuit formally alleges that despite those earlier state fines, the company, quote, continues to prey upon unwary and often elderly consumers. It outlines a track record of what it bluntly calls fraudulent and unconscionable business practices. They claim the company specifically targets folks living on fixed incomes, people who literally cannot just go back to work if their life savings get wiped out.
And the specific sales tactics alleged here, they are intense. Plaintiffs claim account managers would relentlessly solicit people, sometimes bombarding them more than 50 times by phone and email. The lawsuit details how agents allegedly got elderly consumers to just read their credit card numbers right over the phone. No written materials to review, no physical documents to sign, no fine print to double-check. In one wild instance, a plaintiff in California claims an agent told her she could potentially see a 400% return, which induced her to spend over $13,000 on just 10 coins.
And that's the crucial point here. The sheer financial stakes. We aren't talking about $20 souvenir shop purchases. The lawsuit alleges an elderly man in Florida, who admittedly knew nothing about commemorative coins, was roped into buying 127 coins for over $630,000 in total. Think about that for a second. That is life savings territory. Astonishingly, the suit claims he paid nearly $39,000 for just a single coin. He believed he was making a rock-solid investment in precious metals to secure his future.
But here is where the bottom completely falls out. According to the complaint, that Florida plaintiff eventually got independent appraisals. And guess what? He allegedly discovered those coins were actually worth less than a third of his massive purchase price. The lawsuit argues that nobody ever explained to him that the market for these specific coins would essentially have to double and then double again just for him to break even, let alone make a single dime of profit.
This brings us to our final section, collectible versus bullion value, the core of the deception allegations.
This massive price discrepancy is the beating heart of the lawsuit. It all goes back to that definition we talked about in the very beginning. Remember how true bullion securely tracks with the daily precious metals market? Well, the lawsuit alleges that agents deliberately blurred the lines. They allegedly hid the fact that they were pushing highly marked up commemorative collectible coins instead of standard bullion. Commemorative coins are minted to celebrate an event or a person, and they carry what the lawsuit calls dubious numismatic value. Basically, their price doesn't automatically jump just because gold prices jump. The lawsuit argues that making your money back on these highly marked up items is completely unproven, meaning they're effectively novelties, not the bulletproof financial investments these elderly plaintiffs thought they were buying.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this absolutely vital question. How much do you truly know about the underlying value of what you're being sold over the phone? Because whether it's GovMint or any other dealer out there, confusing a market-tracked bullion coin with a wildly marked-up collectible can literally cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Always demand it in writing, always get an independent appraisal, and always ask yourself the true cost of trusting a high-pressure sales pitch. Thanks for joining me to unpack all of this. Stay focused, stay informed, and definitely always verify what you're buying.